Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's Partnership Coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Ben Lund from Rise Marketing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon.
I appreciate that. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, anything that you think would be relevant for our audience to know, and how you came to finding Rise Marketing?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it's funny. I think I'm on my 20th year in digital marketing. Yeah, which is
Congratulations.
crazy.
That is a long time.
And the fun part about it is I'm still as excited about it today as it was 20 years ago because the industry is always changing. That's what makes it so much fun. And yeah, throughout my journey, I mean, I worked at Yahoo way back in the day when people went to Yahoo for their portal to the internet to check out their horoscopes and mail and all the crazy stuff on their homepage. And I was in the Boston office. I worked at ad agency side, and then I was at Google here in Cambridge. And then eventually I founded Rise Marketing Group. This is about 7 years ago. Always something was pulling at me for entrepreneurship. And then eventually just took the leap, but it's exciting to see how everything has been changing in terms of digital, but insanely fascinating.
Yeah, I really do love the idea of marketing in general is something that's constantly changing so quickly. So it's it's nice to hear that you're still happy in your role, because I think that isn't always the case for everyone. But it's also it's good to hear the same thing that I kind of feel about it is the idea that it is ever changing. It is always interesting. So it's fun. That's why I love the podcast. I'm learning more and more things every time I talk to someone that even I don't know about as much research as I do.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun thing to get to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Anytime there's changes and wrinkles, that's an opportunity for ourselves, for our clients, and look at the data. How is it working? And then with everything digital, it's insanely measurable. So you can see what's working, what's not, and make adjustments, but ton of fun.
What do you think is the biggest change that you've seen since starting in digital marketing?
Yeah. So I think there's just a couple phases on that. Back in, when was this? Probably like 2014 or so was the mobile moment. So when I worked at Google, it was like literally like a stamp in time of like, this is the mobile moment where majority of search online behavior is going to happen on a mobile device. And years from before I worked at Yahoo, that everyone's like, oh, it's a year of mobile, but it never happened until it was literally, you could probably Google it, but it was like one day it's like, okay, from this point on, all the majority of online traffic is going to be from mobile devices. And that was like a huge change from user behavior. And then as a marketer, you have to think like, okay, how do I meet these individuals on their devices? How do I have it be a great experience? Because you can't just assume that everyone's in front of a big old computer with plugged into Wi-Fi and everything's going to work seamlessly. That's not the case. They could be on a phone on a commute with a very shoddy connection. And how do you meet them at that moment? So that was one. And then number two, I'm going to give three and with a third. Number two is probably a couple of years later where a lot of programmatic really took off and the algorithms were getting really, really good at, let's say you're advertising on Google or advertising on Meta and saying, all right, track my conversions. Don't focus on clicks, focus on maximizing these conversions, or I want to pay a cost per lead or cost per customer at X amount. And as long as you feed the systems, the data, it got really good at focusing less on traffic, but more on like real business outcomes. And that was probably, a couple of years later, let's say the mid to late teens, 20 teens. And then the third advent, which we're all experiencing right now, is the age of AI, super early in its infancy. And even just what we're seeing as an agency and across our clients, we're a performance marketing agency. So we do advertising, SEO, website design, development. But what we're seeing is that clients are getting leads from these AI tools. We're getting leads from these AI tools. Got a call just last week from someone in Ireland that found us on ChatGPT, starting a brand, a true, real, legit opportunity So it just opens our eyes of like, okay, I think this is the next wave of SEO, which is how to be discovered on these AI tools, because user behavior is going to change just as the change from desktop to mobile. Now it's going to change of like, well, Google's still going to be around and they're going to be fine, but there's a lot of other search alternatives out there. And as marketers, we want to think about how to get discovered on these platforms. And we're starting to put together a little bit of playbook. And it's still early, but those are some of the key, a couple examples of big milestones that have changed the industry quite a bit, and change is inevitable. But as long as you lean into it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So wait, so was was you showing up on that AI tool, did you show up organically at that time? Or was that something that you kind of strategically tried to do when AI was becoming more popular?
Yeah, no, just happened organically. I mean, on our site, we invest in a lot of our own content and our own SEO to just build up our lead generation and everything like that. But what we're finding is a lot of SEO best practices are helping discoverability on these tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity. And there's other elements that you can even do to kind of lean in a little bit more so. But now that we're starting to see real leads coming through and real qualified traffic coming through, we're then now putting on our marketing hats of like, okay, how can we influence this even more, not only for ourselves, but also for our clients to put them in the best possible position.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. I think that um being able to what you said about being able to push yourself to get involved in these new things that are ever changing, I think that does keep you not only relevant but also on top of things. There are always going to be people that are going to be requesting these new tools, or that they be implemented, or that, oh, look, what's the new, even if it's a fad, which I don't think AI is. I think that will continue to grow and be um uh very, it's so big now, but I think it's going to get even larger. It's only advancing more and more. It's becoming greater than what it is and what we saw it to be even last year.
Yeah, definitely. And even when we consult with our clients, we're starting to report on this traffic of like, okay, this is what you got from ChatGPT last month. These are the year month over month growth. Even when chatting with leads of like, okay, we don't have all the answers on how to be discovered with AI. No one knows, but rest assured, we're actually started to put together our own playbooks, and this is top of mind for us. So if you partner with Rise, not only are you going to do the tried and true to SEO, but also how to get discovered on some of these AI tools as well.
What kind of, if you want to share any of your secrets, what kind of things are you implementing in order to be viewed on AI tools? Also, is this something that you're transparent with clients of, like, this is an experiment, so I can't guarantee that
Oh,
really
yeah,
something would happen?
definitely. Oh, very transparent. No one knows on how to, I mean, it's very similar to Google. It's like Google, no one knows the Google algorithm, otherwise they'd be insanely wealthy. But there's a lot of case studies out there and decades of experience where, okay, let's build up quality content. Let's have a fast site. Let's have a sound site architecture and things like that. So yeah, very transparent with the clients. So with AI, it's like, I don't know all the answers, but we're studying it and we're starting to get some good learnings, and we'll definitely share along the way, or we'll even maybe test a few things with them. But a lot of, so very quickly, but one thing is general SEO definitely helps out with being discovered on AI. And there's actually a lot of studies that are coming out of correlating first page results on Google also correlates with being mentioned on some of these tools. So if you just invest in just good old fashioned search engine optimization for Google, which is having a technically sound site, the crawlers can access your information, you're putting together quality content, and other websites are referencing your work, you're going to be in a good spot. That's like fundamentals. But then there's some other things that you can do. So for example, Microsoft has stake in ChatGPT. So with that, instead of optimizing just for Google, you should probably optimize towards Bing and Microsoft and sign up for Microsoft and Bing webmaster tools. Make sure they're indexing all their pages, because that the ChatGPT will access those files, not the Google files. So that's just things. Also, you can even do some, let's say you're a service business and let's say you're a plumber and you want to locally, people are searching for plumbers near me in ChatGPT or whatever, or Perplexity. When you do these, it will share the sources that they're pulling from. So do your own searches, see how they're sourcing this information. And if you're not on these source pages or source sites, start to look at that within your digital PR of how can you get mentioned on these sites to kind of put the cards in your favor a little bit. So there's just those are just a couple quick tips.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. I think to create a strategy about or surrounding something that's so new is a really great testament to your ability to adapt to these new tools. Um, have you seen, I don't know how early on it is that you're implementing these newer strategies, but have you seen any results yet?
Yeah, I mean, across our client set, we're seeing, month over month growth from these platforms. It's still early. I imagine year over year, it's going to be significant growth because it's a smaller base. But even, for our own website and company, we've already onboarded one, likely two clients that found us just through these tools, and they're not in close proximity around the world, around the country. And so the traffic that's coming through is real, and it's actually growing month over month. So yeah, they're super exciting. But, also it's important to keep focus on that, because I do believe like that's a big, that's going to be a huge area of opportunity, but don't get distracted of everything else on marketing that has been proven over the years. So it's almost like if a lot of your marketing time, effort, and resources, maybe continue to spend 85% on the tried and true that that works, that's been growing your business today. Keep that going. But then maybe in the extra 10, 15% of R&D marketing, I guess you could call it, lean in on some of these other platforms. So don't get totally distracted. And then you stop doing your email marketing, you stop doing your social and your general SEO. So that's just something I want to kind of make sure everyone listens, that they don't just drop everything. What they've done today probably helps grow a decent sized business.
Yeah, it's not foolproof at this point. Like there's no foolproof strategy because it's still adapting. It's not a finalized kind of thing. Even Google is constantly adapting, but it's something yeah, of course. But it's something that is still familiar. Whereas AI is new and exciting, but it's also something that people still have to wrap their head around in an SEO standpoint, I guess.
Yep, absolutely.
Was there anything from working at Google that helped you be a better SEO person than like you think the average person would be, or do you think it was kind of just the same?
So when I was at Google, I was on the ad side and I worked with some large scale clients, but that was very much on the paid ad side. So on the paid ad sides, and better suited than the average marketer that didn't come from Google, I would say absolutely, because I came from mothership, had a solid background of what works, what doesn't, and actually got to learn with pretty significant budgets over there for our clients. So on that side, yes, but on the SEO side, even just because you work at Google, they don't really tell you anything. It's a separation of search and state. They don't, kind of give you the tips. Anything that I've learned is just through own experimentation, reading studies, and what all Google puts out there, which they put out a ton of information of all their guidelines on how to rank and quality control measures and things like that. So yeah, long way of answering your question. On the SEO side, not as much, but on the ad side, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's very cool because I love to dive into everyone that I talk to kind of background before marketing. I think it's such a non-linear path that I usually see. Like no one really goes to school for marketing and then becomes a marketer, and then that's like the traditional way of doing things, I suppose. I hear that much less than I do the way in which everyone else kind of falls into things. And so I'm always curious about how the experience kind of impacts the role that you're in today.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny. So I think I'm the minority of the folks that you interview because yeah, I went to school at UMass Amherst, Eisenberg School of Management undergrad, and yeah, my major was marketing. Why I picked marketing? I knew I wanted to get into business, and when I was just taking the classes, the marketing classes were the fun ones. You know, nothing against accountants, nothing against financial advisors, nothing against statisticians, but those classes just not for not for me. You know, I did an honorable job, but the marketing classes, those are the fun ones. So I, I don't know. I guess I just kind of lucked out where, you know, you never know what's going to happen in 10 years if career is going to change, but I don't foresee it changing because I've still enjoyed quite a bit and have been doing it for a good amount of time.
Is there anything right now that particularly excites you about the marketing world? Any like new campaign or something that's new? It could just be AI, and that's also okay. I would consider it slightly a cop out, but I will commend you for that opinion.
Yeah. You know, I would say so AI definitely. We talked about that, so I won't go too deep into that. So it's insanely exciting right there. But also it's like yeah, as a performance marketer, and by performance marketing, it's just like we really focus on driving customers and leads for our clients, less about just traffic and clicks and likes and things like that. You know, over time, like the more you do it, the more you really value the importance of building a brand. And that just makes everything flow so much easier. So earlier in my days, it was very much performance campaigns and buy Google ads on these keywords because we get this conversion rate and it's going to work. And didn't focus as much on website design, development, or UX or nurturing these leads and things like that. It was just very much performance plays. But now the more that I do it, it's really, I mean, building a brand for any of our clients is insanely helpful. It increases the conversion rates, the average order value, how many times they're purchasing, and it just lists up everything. I think over the past year or two, outside of AI, that's been super exciting to see. Okay, how can we help our clients not only just uh, tactical performance media buys, but how can we elevate their brand, which just impacts everything that they're doing.
Yeah, no, I think that being excited about doing those things is really important in the job. I think that you can have a strategy that you implement. But if you're not like excited about the outcome for your client, I think that, like the experience is not the same. So it's nice that you're, excited about what you do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the excitement comes from the impact that it has on clients, large or small. We have clients that we're able to double their online revenue, almost double online revenue year over year, while actually decreasing their marketing budgets just by getting way more dialed in. And you just see how that impacts business. And they get to hire more, they get to grow, and it's just it's pretty impactful.
What is the ideal client that you work with?
It's a good question. We actually have 3 segments of clients at our agency. So e-commerce is a big one. So e-commerce, Shopify stores, those are always great. We have a segment for small businesses. So those would be your local service-based companies, attorneys. That's been an ongoing focus for ours. And then the other, we call it scalable lead gen. So that's a client that's nationwide looking for leads and has sizable budgets, and how can we continue to grow that for them? So it's really 3 buckets: e-commerce, small business, and then what we like to call scalable lead gen.
How do you juggle all of these different categories? 'Cause I think that a big agency conversation that I get a lot is the idea of niching down and making it my kind of I guess more simpler approach to how you go about your marketing strategies. How do you effectively cater to all these different categories?
Yeah, definitely. So we segmented our talent appropriately. So we have e-commerce team, someone who leads small business, and then someone who leads the scalable lead gen. So we definitely believe in a specialized approach. So that way, someone who focuses on small business or lead gen isn't then monkeying around in Shopify and just trying to learn like that whole side. Not say that they can, but they're not going to be, they'll be more of like a generalist, which we don't want. So we have specialization within teams. And then also within teams, within the services that we offer, paid ads, SEO, email marketers, everyone swims in their lane. So the paid ads people, account managers and account team, they just do paid ads. They just do Google, they do Meta. And then the SEO, that's all that they do. Copywriter, which we have on staff, that's all they do is copywriting. So it's very much specialized. So there's a lot of agencies, and I thought about this past, like, oh, should we just pick one specific business and be like, we are the agency for attorneys, and that's all we're going to do. I didn't want to just like go super niche on that, especially if a client comes to us and I know we could help them out, like if they're outside of a specific realm. So that's why we're like, let's definitely get more specific, but let's create 3 different verticals so most businesses could fall in one, and then members of each team, they just kind of swim in that lane.
How do you foster communication amongst your teams to know that they're like efficiently working together, creating good products, since they're very segmented on the very specific task in which they do?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we have company meetings. We meet as a larger team every other week just to talk about what's happening. Always one communication within, we use Google, so Google admin. So within, we have different type of spaces that we message each other in of just general best practices of like, oh, we're seeing this. Are you guys seeing that? So yeah, we try to do a lot of that. And then even though we live in a post-pandemic world where a lot of the conversations happen with Google Meet and Zoom and all that good stuff, we're in the Boston area. So we like to get people in the office at least once or twice a week, just to encourage that kind of collaboration of like, hey, have you guys experienced this? Kind of like water cooler talks. And then of course, several times a year, just try to bring in the whole crew together for some type of an offsite.
Oh, that's really nice. Is there anything that you implement that is, I guess, non-work related, so to speak, that you think fosters good communication amongst your employees?
That's a really good question. I would say the only thing is, for those folks that are regional, just try to encourage, like, definitely, encourage the hybrid work environment because people just like it. And especially folks with families, and I have 3 kids. I value that type of flexibility as well. But for those who are relatively local, just to come into the office, once or twice a week. And if they're regional, then come in monthly or something like that. But that just helps up, builds up relationships, and just even like having lunch or coffee together where you're not even talking about work, but it opens up that line of communication. So that way, if there's ever a question or an interesting idea, they are much more comfortable to share it with others because they have that level of relationship. And I think most companies should, hybridization is a great thing, but I think the pendulum's going to swing the other way to a degree where you really value in-person communication. Also, same thing for our clients too. It's so much client work happens interactively, like as we're doing right now. But if you can actually sit down for a meeting covering the same things, super helpful, because even after the meeting ends, then you talk about life and, what are they doing this weekend? Are they going on any vacations? And you actually get to, build up that type of a relationship with them, which is insanely helpful. So I feel like we're going to lean in a little bit more towards that, internally and externally, but still keeping, what works in the hybrid work environment there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that kind of relationship at work is really valuable. I think that a lot of people model their business or agency off of like a corporate structure. And I think that's very damaging. I think that being able to foster comfortable relationships like that kind of enforces a more like comfortable and happy work environment.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that I see more of a trend of in agencies. It makes me really happy because I think a lot of people get into the agency world because they don't like the corporate environment, or create an agency because they were within the corporate environment and it was something that just wasn't for them.
Yep.
Yeah. and I enjoy seeing that. I also think that I definitely agree with you about the hybrid or the remote work trend. I think that it is a trend. I think that there will always be some level of it, but I also think that humans crave connection. I think that after COVID, we saw that whole obviously dip of everyone really, really antsy to go outside and do things. And I feel like there was this big boom of like collective meetups and all these different things after everything was better. And I think that that will probably similarly happen with work where maybe not that I think there's some people that work better in different environments. So maybe like having more of a choice
Mhm.
would be something that I would love to see. But I think that the ability to shoot, I think that's why I kind of like the hybrid of like you can go in, on these days or whatever it may be. I think it enforces that connection between you and your coworkers.
Definitely.
So I
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah. And definitely. And, and also with your clients, like people do business with people that they like. Like, obviously, if someone were to hire us, we need to check the box of like, yes, they have a track record, happy clients and case studies and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, like, all things being equal, let's say us and another agency, but if we put in the extra effort to actually build up real relationships, they're going to want to work with people that they actually want to meet with every week, because it's a partnership and they will probably meet with us every week. So might as well work with someone that you really enjoy doing or enjoy being around their company. So I feel like that's another like ancillary benefit that a lot of folks don't really think about is, yeah, it's real human connections. And that's got a lot of significant benefits outside of just that relationship.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of agencies, especially that work with small businesses, and if they're local, I really love to see when they like interact with them outside of like that very cookie cutter
Mhm.
setting of doing work together, like going to their business, seeing how they work. I talked to a woman the other day that did marketing for a very specific sub shop and went in and like made a sub with them like behind the
Yeah.
counter. I thought that was wonderful because I think that having connection beyond just updates on a campaign or whatever you may be doing is something that I think people really value. This personability, feeling that there's a real person talking to them, and not
Yep.
just a robot. And I think that's a similar trend that I might see with AI that is parallel to what you said about hybrid working. Is I think that the more we implement AI into certain parts of business and how we interact with people, I think that we're going to see this almost starvation for human connection where like we have chatbots and all these different things that I think that maybe when it becomes more efficient, it might seem like an actual person. And so that might be okay. It might be better suited for certain people. But I think that we will always crave that side of things. And I think that kind of like a pendulum swing, like it'll go back and forth. And yeah, I definitely resonate with that idea.
Nice. Totally agree.
So switching gears before we go because we're coming up on time. So you mentioned were you specifically not mentioned, but your website mentions that transparency is a very core value of your agency.
Mhm.
Love to see that. How do you ensure that this principle is like upheld specifically in your agency? Like what kind of certain structures do you have in place to make sure that that's something that is kept as a value throughout
Yeah,
the
definitely. So it all starts off with our reporting. So every client has a Looker Studio dashboard, which is a Google product. And what it is, it's just a blank canvas, and we can integrate any type of metrics and campaign parameters going in, so we can import data from Google and Meta and Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, or organic traffic, everything. We put together a dashboard based off of whatever the KPIs are. And this isn't just like an Excel sheet where someone can kind of like, round up or round down based off how they feel. This is directly from APIs. And how it works out during most of our Standus meetings is we start off looking at the data, because the data doesn't lie. And And then that's a core element of transparency of how we're doing. And we never get away from data. So let's say, obviously, when times are good and the data is up and to the right, cool, cool, cool. Let's do more of that. But sometimes you might launch a strategy and it's like, oof, data isn't looking too good. What do we do here? But we're not an agency that's going to be like, well, let's just kind of brush over that bad stuff. Let's look at the good stuff again. It's like, no, let's actually look at this together because we're a team. We came together jointly with a marketing program or an idea and it's not working. Let's dissect this a little bit. Why is it not working? And then that's an area that, for anyone who works with us, we're not afraid of the good news or the bad news. And if it's not good, all right, can this campaign be saved? Is it the landing page experience? Is it the messaging? Is it the audience? Is it the budget? Or maybe sometimes it's just campaigns like, okay, we tried it, just not going to work. Let's pivot. Let's do something else or do things that, more so, but it's all about like transparency. We're a partner with a client and let's work on this together. And at a core of all of our meetings is customized reporting pulled directly from the APIs. And we look at the data together. And then further, let's say for clients that we're generating leads from, we don't just say, okay, oh, great, we drove 10 leads for you last week. Sounds good. But we take a step further. It's like, okay, well, tell me about those leads. Were they qualified? What are you seeing on their end? Are they becoming customers? And then try to get even deeper into it so we can optimize towards not just a lead, but a qualified lead that turned to a marketing qualified lead, a sales qualified lead, to then eventually a customer.
Yeah, no, it's really good to be able to analyze that and understand it more rather than just leave it as a statistic that is just arbitrary. Because I think that I definitely agree with you that, people want a quality lead. They don't just want a lead. I think that, if you get a certain number of them, maybe it's a little blurrier because it's fine. You're going to obviously have qualified leads amongst that or whatever it may be. But I think that it's very important and valuable for an agency to analyze the reasons why things are happening and not just present you with data and then send you on your way because it looks all paper, because that is such a lack of trust or transparency. I think, things can look great on paper, but in reality, not only can they not continue to implement it if it's something that you're just setting them up for success, but they don't understand why things work the way it does, so they can't continue doing that or whatever it may be. But it's also, they might not understand everything or why it's happening. It might just look good to them and they're like, okay, good. And then a couple months later, they lost all their traffic or they don't have any sales.
Yep, absolutely. So really, I think the theme that we're kind of getting at is like really understanding the business from getting there, ideally in person, to like really understand like that sub shop example. And then also when you're marketing, like, are we driving truly qualified customers? What are you seeing on the business end? Because that's why they're hiring a marketing agency to grow their business, not just clicks or even leads. It's really customers. So are we able to drive for them?
Yeah, no, I think this is a great note to end on because I think that's so important. And I think that that shows, I think, the value of an actual agency because, you can do so many things on paper and whether they're true or not, no one will really ever know unless they actually get those sales. So to implement that kind of transparency, I think is really, really important in agency work. And I hope that that's a trend that I see always and not just sometimes or most of the time.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of these great ideas. I think that these will be extremely helpful in educating your audience. I learned a lot, so I appreciate you sharing with me and sharing more about Rise Marketing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. This was a ton of fun.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening and or watching. Please don't forget to check out other episodes and learn more from this podcast. And I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.